back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my February TBR. There are 12 books here in total, and I'm pretty excited about them, including a 24-hour reads for 2 videos that you guys are going to get coming up. So that's going to be my 24-hour reads, and then another video, which I will talk about when I get to those. So we're going to start off with my series continuations, 2 of which are books that I started the first book in January, and then the second one is a series that I had started a while back and then just didn't continue. Sorry, I had to move you guys around to adjust some lighting, thanks. All right, let's get going. First up, we have The Golem's Eye by Jonathan Stroud. I literally just this morning finished the first book. I read these when I was in elementary school-ish, and they were like really vivid books to me. And having reread the first one, while it has its problematic elements due to the time that it was released, it's still a really solid read. I had a lot of fun reading it. And so this second book is the continuation, obviously, in the trilogy, and it is about Nathaniel, the magician, who is quickly climbing the ranks of the local government that is run, not local, but of the government that's run by magicians. He has worked specifically with Bartimaeus, who is a djinn genies, and they don't appreciate being called demons, and I called him a demon in my very first TBR, so that was totally my bad. So they're trying to figure out who is the resistance and are they dangerous and what's going on and who is that group, and that is what the second book is going to be about. Next up, I will be reading The Sandman Volume 4, Season of Mists by Neil Gaiman. This is a graphic novel series, and I watched the TV show and really enjoyed it. And I've really enjoyed the comics that I've read so far of it. I think this time the Dream King is going to have to, or Morpheus is essentially going to have to rescue a woman who loved him that he had condemned to hell, but the fallen angel Lucifer wants to destroy him, and the Endless is who convinced him that it was an injustice, and blah 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 blah. It's the whole thing, and so that'll be kind of an interesting continuation of the story, as I think we sort of started to get around there by the end of the season 1 of Sandman. I don't know if there's ever going to be a Sandman season 2. But I enjoyed it a lot, so we'll see if there's a Sandman season 2. But anyway, and then we have Midnight Blue by Shauna McGuire. This is the second book in the Encrypted series, following Verity Price and her sort of boyfriend Dominic DeLuca, who was a Covenant member and is still a Covenant member, I think, question mark. And it's just your classic, kind of feels like a detective mystery slash gotta save the world kind of vibes. Verity Price is very much a cheerleader vibe to me, and it's just fun. It's a fun book. The first book was a fun book, so I'm excited about the second one and to see how it goes and where we go from here. Especially because having read all of the October Day series, I'm interested to see how that character growth arc comes about, because I think there's 13 books in the Encrypted series versus the 18 that are in October Day, so I'm curious about how that's going to come about. Next up, we are going to talk about my etc. reads, which are just various things I'm also going to be reading, including the nonfiction book that I've chosen for this month, because if you don't know, I'm trying to read at least 1 nonfiction book a month this year to grow as a person. First, we actually have a childhood reread that I think shaped me as a person, and that is going to be Fly By Night by Frances Harding. 12-year-old Masca Mai hasn't got much. Her cruel uncle keeps her locked up in his mill, and her only friend is her pet goose, Sarakin, who will bite anything that crosses his path. But she does have one small rare thing, the ability to read. She doesn't know it yet, but in a world where books are dangerous things, this gift will change her life. Enter eponymous Clint, a smooth-talking con man who seems to love words nearly as much as Masca herself. Soon, Masca and Clint are living a life of deceit and danger, discovering secret societies, following shady characters on floating coffee houses, and entangling themselves with crazed dukes and double-crossing racketeers. It would be exactly the kind of tale Masca has always longed to take part in, until she learns that her one true love, words, may be the death of her. As a kid, I was always a reader. I mean, I had better reading skills than I do now. My retention ability as a child, oh god, I wish I still had that. Definitely don't now, but god, I wish I still had that. Child me adored this book because the idea of living in a world where books were essentially illegal, and where reading was not allowed was so devastating of an idea to me that I was like, Mosca, she's gotta win them all, or whatever. Like, I remember this book having such a deep impact on me. It also had those covers. I think the Spiderwick Chronicles and the American Girl doll books and the Series of Unfortunate Events, like those OG covers that are like hardback with no dust cover and squishy, like a little squishy. That is what I distinctly remember about this book, is the texture of the book itself. Yeah, I was neurodivergent. Anyway, moving on. Next up, we have Being Lolita by Alison Wood. Have you ever read Lolita? So begins 17-year-old Allison's metamorphosis from student to lover and then victim. A lonely and vulnerable high school senior, Allison finds solace only in her writing and a young, charismatic English teacher, Mr. North. Mr. North gives Allison a copy of Lolita to read, telling her it is a beautiful story about love. The book soon becomes a backdrop to a connection that blooms from a simple crush into a devastating and dangerous bond, but as Mr. North Mr. North's hold on her tightens, Allison is forced to evaluate how much of their narrative is actually a disturbing fiction. In the wake of what becomes a deeply abusive relationship, Allison is faced again and again with the story of her past, from rereading Lolita in college to working with teenage girls to becoming a professor of creative writing. It is only with that distance and perspective that she understands the ultimate power language has had on her and how to harness that power to tell her own true story. This is a memoir, and there is a Hulu special, I think, about this book specifically, and I think I watched it without watching it. I don't know if that makes sense. It was on, but I don't really remember watching it. I loved Lolita as a teenager. I also loved The Adult as a teenager. I also loved the movie An Education as a teenager. I was not ever in any of these relationships. However, when I was growing up, these kinds of relationships were definitely romanticized. And that behavior was even encouraged. Now, a 25-year-old dates a 30-year-old and people are like, he's grooming her, which is super also not the case. We're just one extreme to the other, so that's interesting. But I'll be interested to see this, especially from the perspective of somebody that I think we grew up around the same era. And so, it'll be interesting and heartbreaking, I'm sure. Next up, we have The Marigold by Andrew F. Sullivan. This is a horror novel that's kind of been on my radar for quite a while, so I'm excited to get to it this month. In the near future Toronto, buffeted by environmental chaos and unfettered development, an unsettling new life form begins to grow beneath the surface, feeding off the past. The Marigold, a gleaming Toronto condo tower, sits a half-empty promise, a stack of scuffed rental suites and undelivered amenities that crumbles around its residents as a mysterious sludge spreads slowly through it. Public Health Inspector Kathy Jin investigates the toxic mold as it infests the city's infrastructure, rotting it from within, while Sam stumbles onto a dangerous cache of data while cruising the streets in his Camry, waiting for his next rideshare alert. On the outskirts of town, 13-year-old Henrietta Barracks chases a friend deep underground after he's snatched into a sinkhole by a creature from below. All the while, construction of the city's newest luxury tower, Marigold 2, has stalled. Stanley Marigold, the struggling son of the legendary developer behind this project, decides he must tap into a hidden reserve of old power to make his dream a reality, one with a human cost. Human sacrifice from the rich sounds correct to me. Sounds like something they'd do now, not to be a conspiracist, but I'd be thinking things, Next up, we have 6 books for my 24-hour reads. I'm gonna have to read 6 books in a week's time, or within 24 hours of reading. I don't think I'll actually be able to manage this because only 2 of them have audiobooks. So I'm kind of pushing it. It'll be interesting. And these are also on the theme of I support women's wrongs. I support women's rights, I support women's wrongs. Which, if you don't know what that means, it's essentially like when a woman does something wrong, but you still support her because it's valid. Like, what she's doing is valid. Being evil is valid for her. And the reasoning behind that can be varied. It can be like, I think she's hot and so it's valid. Or it can be she's offing her assaulters and I think she's valid. It's those kinds of things. I have a recommendation video that I am planning on filming with that in mind. That is the theme. And I had books in mind, but I went ahead and messaged a couple of my group chats and asked them for their recommendations. And so I compiled a list of their recommendations and I marked out the ones that I had already read, and then I got 2 from like 3 friends, and now we have this list. So here we go. First up, we have Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaefer. Nita doesn't murder supernatural beings and sell their body parts on the internet. Her mother does that. Nita just dissects the bodies after they've been acquired. But when her mom brings home a live specimen, Nita decides she wants out. Dissecting living people is a step too far. But when she tries to save her mother's victim, she ends up sold on the black market in his place because Nita herself is a supernatural being. Now, Nita is on the other side of the bars, and there is no line she won't cross to escape and make sure no one can ever capture her again. Nita did a good deed, and it cost her everything. Now she's going to do a lot of bad deeds to get it all back. Good for Nita. And we support her. Remember, we support women's wrongs. Next up, we have The Wicked Deep by Shea Earnshaw. I actually really like Shea Earnshaw's writing, so I'm excited to see how this goes. Welcome to the cursed town of Sparrow, where 2 centuries ago, 3 sisters were sentenced to death for witchery. Stones were tied to their ankles, and they were drowned in the deep waters surrounding the town. Now, for a brief time each summer, the sisters return, stealing the bodies of 3 weak-hearted girls so that they may seek revenge, luring boys into the harbor and pulling them under. As they should. Like many locals, 17-year-old Penny Talbot has accepted the fate of the town. But this year, on the eve of the sisters' return, a boy named Beau Carter arrives, unaware of the danger he's just stumbled into. Mistrust and lies spread quickly through the salty, rain-soaked streets. The townspeople turn against one another. Penny and Beau suspect each other of hiding secrets, and death comes swiftly to those who cannot resist the call of the sisters. But only Penny sees what others cannot, and she'll be forced to save Beau or save herself. So is Beau a bad guy? Because if they only come and eat boys, then I don't know. Next up, we have Among the Hollow by Roman Ankenbrandt, which is a smaller indie. It didn't have a ton of reviews, so I'm kind of excited to be one of the people to read it. An empire steeped in cutthroat politics and black magic wavers upon the knife's edge of civil war. The empress has been overthrown and her only remaining heir taken into the custody of her killers, leaving the empire divided between the old imperial family and the zealous general who has seized the capital. Meanwhile, Aurel, a disembodied soul with no memory of their former self, must forge an uneasy pact with Sevilla, a mysterious traveler from across the southern sands. In the hunt for Aurel's body, the R and the L, my mouth is having a really hard time with. In the hunt for their body, strange alliances form and dark secrets emerge, threatening to plunge the Empire into a crisis far greater than they could imagine. Next, we have Foul is Fair by Hannah Capin. Elle and her friends, Mads, Jenny, and Summer, rule their glittering LA circle. Untouchable, they have the kind of power other girls only dream of. Every party is theirs, and the world is at their feet. Until the night of Elle's Sweet 16, when they crash a St. Andrew's prep party. The night the Golden Boys chose Elle as their next target. They picked the wrong girl. Sworn to vengeance, Elle transfers to St. Andrews. She plots to destroy each boy, one by one. She'll take their power, their lives, and their control of the prep school's hierarchy, and she and her coven have the perfect way in. A boy named Mac, whose ambition could turn deadly. What I also really love about this list, I've got 2 more after this, but what I really love about this list is that I have many different genres. I've got sci-fi, I've got fantasy, I've got thrillers, I've got contemporary even, I've got young adult, and then I've got adult. Like, it's very all over the place, and I really like that for me. I think that it'll be a fun time. Next up, we have Cackle by Rachel Harrison, who I have read before. I read Black Sheep by her, and I really, really enjoyed it. All of her life, Annie has played it nice and safe. After being unceremoniously dumped by her longtime boyfriend, Annie seeks a fresh start. She accepts a teaching position that moves her from Manhattan to a small village upstate. She's stunned by how perfect and picturesque the town is. The people are all friendly and warm. Her new apartment is dreamy, minus the odd, persistent spider infestation. Nah, bitch, I'd move. That's not true. I have spiders, but it's because they're constructing around here is different. Then Annie meets Sophie, beautiful, charming, magnetic Sophie, who takes a special interest in Annie, who wants to be her friend. More importantly, she wants Annie to stop apologizing and start living for herself. That's how Sophie lives. Annie can't help but gravitate towards the self-possessed Sophie, wanting to spend more and more time with her despite the fact that the rest of the townsfolk seem afraid of her. And like, okay, there are some things Sophie's appearance is uncanny and ageless, her mansion in the middle of the woods feels a little unearthly, and she does seem to wield a certain power, but she couldn't be. Could she? I don't know what she is, but I support her. Next up, we have Compass Rose by Anna Burke. In the year 2513, the only thing higher than the seas is what's at stake for those who sail them. Rose was born facing due north with an inherent perception of cardinal points flowing through her veins. Her uncanny sense of direction earns her a coveted place among the archipelago fleet elite, but it also attracts the attention of Admiral Kamita, who sends her on a secret mission deep into pirate territory. Accompanied by a ragtag crew of mercenaries and under the command of Miranda, a captain as bloodthirsty as she is alluring, Rose discovers the hard way that even the best sense of direction won't be enough to keep her alive. If she can't learn to navigate something far more dangerous than the turbulent seas, I started that as a new sentence, but it was a part of the previous sentence anyway. Aboard the mercenary ship Man of War, Rose learns quickly that trusting the wrong person can get you killed, and Miranda's crew has no intention of making things easy for her, especially Miranda's trusted first mate Orca, who is as stubborn as she is brutal. Did Landis recommend me a deeply off Devil Wears Prada fanfic that has been published? I'm only asking because of the cutthroat Captain Miranda. Landis, I know you're gonna watch this. Did you recommend me? Anyway, moving on. That is my TBR for February. I am very excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I do think I overdid it with the 24-hour reads, but it's fine. I can read 6 books in 7 days or in 24 hours. I think I can do it. I think I can figure it out somehow. God help me. So it's definitely going to be an interesting time, for sure. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment down below and don't forget to like and subscribe and share. If you didn't enjoy this video, I'm sorry. Let me know how I can make it better for you. I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays, every single week at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, except for the first week of the month. I think that's it. Don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.